This is my outline. These are my verbal citations. These are two people. Show yourself. This is a third person. Okay. So before Aileen Lee Wuornos, serial killers were exclusively men. The Encyclopedia of Capital Punishment called her the U.S.'s first female serial killer. So today I'll be exploring the relevance of her upbringing and her life as a prostitute in South Florida as it pertains to her becoming a serial killer. There are three main ideas about Aileen Wuornos I'll discuss. I'll start by discussing her very early childhood, adoption, and teenage years. Then I'll move on to discuss her life as a prostitute, her repeated history of sexual assault, and childhood pregnancy. And finally, I'll finish by informing you about the murders of 7 men at point-blank range between the years of 1989 to 1990. Let me begin by telling you about Wuornos' early childhood. She was born to a 14-year-old mother and a 16-year-old father. She was abandoned by her mother at 4 and sent to live with her grandparents. She was told that her grandparents were her parents and that her aunt and uncle was her brother and her sister. Her grandparents were both alcoholic and adopted her at 14. Her grandfather was extremely abusive. According to Lori Grody, who was her cousin, he would take away her Christmas presents as soon as they got there. Once he even drowned her pet cat and made her watch. Now let's move on to discuss her life as a prostitute and young adult. As early as 11, Wuornos was trading sex for cigarettes, food, drugs, and shelter. Wuornos said that her grandfather sexually assaulted and beat her, and at 14 she became pregnant, having been the victim of rape by one of her grandfather's friends. Wuornos' childhood best friend, Dawn, said that guy that raped her, he was about 60 years old and he loved all the kids. Aileen was drunk and he raped her, and that's how she got pregnant. She gave birth to a little boy in 1971, and he was placed for adoption. A few months later, her grandmother died of liver failure, and then Aileen dropped out of school. At 15, a couple months later, her grandfather threw her out of the house. She then moved into the woods full-time and began supporting herself through prostitution. Finally, I'll finish by informing you about the murders of 7 men at point-blank range between 1989 and 1990. Wuornos had a long list of encounters with the police, including assault, theft, DUI, and reckless driving. Eventually, the dangers of being a sex worker came into play when a man that she was with sodomized and beat her. She had a weapon, so she pulled it, shot him 6 times, and left him for dead. After that, she shot 6 more men in a 12-month time span. She claimed that each one was the result of self-defense due to their attempts to rape and kill her. Wuornos was caught in 1990. Her girlfriend, to whom she remained loyal and in love with until the day she was executed, exchanged her testimony for immunity from prosecution and actually coaxed Aileen into a confession that was recorded by the police. She was executed in 2002. She was the 10th woman to be executed in the United States. So I just told you aspects of Aileen Wuornos' life and capture. I started by giving you information on her childhood and trauma. I informed you about her life as a prostitute, and then I gave you information about the killings of 7 men over a 12-month time period.